Hello, everybody, and welcome to this BIA webinar on the Brits at BIO, your guide to BIO Week in 2023. My name's Steve Bates. I'm the Chief Exec of the BIA, and I've got an august panel for you today who'll be able to guide you through what is the biggest event in biotech globally this year. John Lowndes will be taking you through what's going on in the UK Pavilion. Lynn Bateson, BIO partner, will take us through some elements of partnering. And Michael Callahan joins us from Boston, where he lives and works, to give us some local colour and inside expertise to Boston as a city. So if I can, I'll set out with the next slide, please, which is what it is. The annual BIO convention this year is in Boston. It's only a couple of weeks away, running Monday through Thursday, and we know of over 200 UK companies going. So it's going to be a really exciting event. I hope we can get you ahead of that. Next one. I hope what we can do in this webinar is guide you through the week from a UK company perspective. I've already introduced some key people who are around to help through the week. This webinar has some basic advice if you're going for the first time. And if you've been before, I hope we can give you some sense as to what's new in and around the fringes. And I'll close with a couple of things that I use to start conversations if people ask me about the UK biotech scene when I'm there. So this is everybody with their best photo taken and their best hair, as well as those you can see on screen today. So that's how everybody is. So BIO is a jamboree. Whenever you go, you can't do everything. It's far too big. The main reason most people go is because it's a global partnering event with masses of rabbit warrens of booths and lots of partnering on the stands. There's a very large conference floor with lots and lots of stands from countries, regions, and companies. There are panel sessions galore and company presentation booths and bioprocessing booths. So lots and lots of things going on, as well as shoulder events, breakfast events, evening networking events, a vibrant scene. And additionally, because everybody's in town, alternative conferences are now packed around, and sometimes you find other panels around, a bit like JP Morgan Week. So it's a really, really vibrant week. And the key trick here is to plan your way through it, because nobody does everything. We're only giving you a small slice of what's going on, really targeted on what we don't know about from a UK perspective, rather than the whole scene. But I hope this is our contribution to that discussion and gives you a good way through. So the next two slides are probably the most important ones from my perspective. We've tried to distill down everything that we know. And I know Tony Jones was considering and may have joined us from One Nucleus. So Tony, if you're in, do put in the chat if you want to comment on events that you've got on. So the Department for Business and Trade, these are UK events, UK organised events that we've discovered from our knowledge that are going on around BIO. BIO obviously starts on the Monday, but on the Sunday, there is an invite-only event that organised with the Department of Business and Trade at the Consul General's residence. But for others, there's a mixer event with One Nucleus and Biomed PLC on the Sunday evening, organised by One Nucleus. Monday, there is a One Nucleus breakfast. Tony's going to have a busy time. Fish Richardson, One Nucleus being the business group organising in London and Cambridge area. And then there's also a Department of Business and Trade breakfast, Goodwin Law, which is invite only. John will touch on that later. We've got the pavilion of the stand, the UK pavilion on the show floor. They'll be opening at 12 to 12:45, and there'll be a gathering then. And at 5 o'clock in the evening, once partnering has finished, there is a UK BIO reception at Nutter Law at Seaport Boulevard. So people will head away from the conference centre and go to that event for a UK crowd. On the Tuesday, a busy day, obviously, all around. Again, Tony's up early with another seminar. It's another law firm, McDermott, Will & Emery. If you're interested in that, contact Tony at One Nucleus. And through the day, there are a couple of sessions that I would flag for your diary. There's a seminar on Global Innovation Hub with the UK government at 11:30. It would be great to support our minister, George Freeman, who's coming out, and a bio super session at 4 o'clock in the afternoon against spurring biotech innovation across the globe. Again, it would be great to have UK presence at that one. Into the evenings, you've got the pavilion exhibition hospitality reception, 5 to 6:30. And it's a bit of a busy time here because there's the event on the stand, At the same, and then there's also going to be a Northern Ireland Life Science meetup at the Lennox Hotel. SDI, Scottish Development International, are having a malt whiskey drinks reception. Again, that's going to be busy, and we're hoping to put together an event called Global Talent Network, where we're hoping to get great Brits who are based in the Boston area together with some Brits that are travelling over to meet up. That's in the works at the moment. We're very keen to partner and support on that one, and that's going to be early evening again on the Tuesday. So that's a flavour of what's going on during the 3 days from a UK perspective. One new aspect that you may want to see is that the BBC are helping make a film festival at BIO, and in room 105 they're going to be running some of the videos they've made, and it's great to see our national broadcaster promoting biotechnology on a global stage through BBC World and the website. So do pop into that if you have a chance. Again, something around the edges. Other events that I talked about, parallel conferences you may be aware of and you may be interested in. I know most people will go for the partnering, stick in the booths and go to stuff in the evening, but if you are at a loose end or not yet fixed on your plans for the week, there is a RESI, Redefining Early Stage Investment Conference, which we have member discounts for, and there's an in-person event during the day on the Monday, and that then goes virtual Tuesday and Wednesday. Endpoints have also got a parallel conference at BIO, as they do for JP Morgan. It's a Port and Trade magazine some people like to go to. That's on Tuesday, Wednesday at the Seaport Hotel. So just to give you a flavour of some of the other stuff that's around and about. Next up. Partnering, we'll probably touch on this in Lynn and Joyn's presentation. Partnering at BIO can be somewhat confusing because it can happen both in the business forum, or rabbit hutches as I call them, if you've been to partnering events, closed small booths where you have speed dating meetings. But they can also take place on the stands in the exhibition hall. And it's important to understand the geography of this and where you go for your partnering, because both where you are and where your partner may be meeting may be dependent. Most people go to the business forum. It's a more expensive ticket, but it does mean that the partnering is very, very close to one another and can be packed in. It's a big space. I mean, I always wear flats, except for the best events in the evening. So I take a charger and a water bottle to make sure that a fruit to make sure I actually stay rehydrated. And I know that I do a fraction of what's available. Like a trip to Disney, you can only see a small part of the magic. Lynn, I'm going to hand over to you at this point. BIO Partner have been a long partner of the BIA in assisting with this one, and we've sold out on the discounted tickets to BIO, but you're going to update us on where things are at and how people might make the most advantage of this if they've taken that opportunity.
Thanks, Steve. I do feel a bit of a fraud to be here as an expert, actually, because I'm not going to BIO, nor have I ever actually been to BIO. BIO Partner has sent representatives in the past, but it's not, it makes more sense for the BIA and for the Department for Business and Trade to do this high-profile, very large event with a UK pavilion. Government has the budget, we don't. And likewise, Steve takes care of JP Morgan and generally does a webinar ahead of that one. And we focus more on Europe because it's a cheaper, easier option for SMEs and for startups to start their international journey. But as Steve said, we have sold out of our discounted tickets. We bought a block in advance, which are now gone, understandably, with less than 2 weeks to go before BIO. We did find yesterday, however, that we had a code which was still working. And so if you do have a late registration, no guarantees, but we can issue with that code so that you can try before you need to pay full price. Just email events@biopartner.co.uk. So, and if you didn't book through us and you didn't get your UK GBP invoice, then make sure you visit us for next year because the discounts are quite amazing for this, rather expensive convention. We'll have the next slide, please. Just to describe the benefits of the Premier Pass compared to the General Pass, as Steve has pointed out. It gives you the freedom if you get the full access pass. it costs a little bit extra, but you can view the programme, join all the networking sessions in the business forum, and you get your meetings, you know, where you want them to be rather than on the pavilion. The whole thing is about partnering, just like any other convention or large scale event. If you haven't, you know, updated your profile yet and started to book meetings, then please do so. Get in there early, and you know, bear in mind that the average company has 25 one-to-one meetings during the event, and if you have 2 delegates attending, you can secure an incremental 8 to 10 meetings for each person, and then come back and have lots of follow-up to do. Next slide. This is just a quick slide about the business forum versus the exhibit booth. Same companies and delegates, regardless of your partnering type, but it's the where and the when that matters with that additional pass. And then tips for successful partnering. This is just lifted from the BIA website, and as Steve has pointed out, comfortable shoes, a bottle of water and a phone charger. Steve, you alluded to wearing flats during the day. Does that mean you're wearing heels in the evenings?
They'll have to come to the talent reception to see what talent I'm exhibiting, won't they?
Indeed. So, you know, as I just said, fill out your company profile and focus on your opportunities. Make sure you're being specific to the person that you're meeting, if you possibly can, you know, looking at their interests before you go into a sort of, you know, general meeting. And take your time, you know, make sure that you've allowed enough time between meetings, and don't accept meetings that are too early in the morning, too late at night, because the networking that comes from these receptions is going to be equally valuable. You need to, you know,
Lynn, are you a fan of blocking out the Thursday afternoon so that they don't put all of your meetings into Thursday afternoon, so you try and get them earlier in the day? I always think it's wise to only open up your marginal slots, perhaps your earliest slots or your latest slots, once you've got your other slots filled, because otherwise the computer can try and make you stay till Thursday at 4, rather than, you know, if you have those held, you can get most of them done on Wednesday afternoon.
Absolutely. It is a little bit of a balancing game, because obviously you want to have your availability open for as many meetings as you can. On the other hand, you don't want to you know, have everything crowded into one day. And the organisers do that trick where they want you to be in certain places for, you know, for keynotes, and then they might you know, just force you into that afternoon session, as you pointed out. So yeah, open up some, keep some closed, and then a little later open up your final slots. That's a really good thing to do.
Yeah, that's why it's always worth dropping back in if there's people who haven't had availability, because they may open them up and, you know, keep trying a few times. If you're a first timer on this, I imagine we've got a fairly experienced crowd, but yeah, keep going and keep going until you know, into the conference, if there are people you're really keen to see.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm getting a pop-up on my computer, and it's obscuring you. I'm not sure what to do about it. So the numbers compared to last year, 2022, are pretty similar as far as I can see. The number of exhibitors and pavilions and countries, 64 countries attending, is impressive, and that's based on last year, 2022. We have, as Steve said, over 200. It's actually 256 UK companies, which is 457 people. Quite a lot of Brits, and we'll
be one of the biggest internationals, won't we? I imagine we might be the biggest, or maybe second biggest, and if we count the Brits that were in Boston, we'll easily be the biggest.
Yeah, it's a natural home for us, isn't it? There's the attendee stats, the type of people that are attending by type and by industry. If you're interested, this is all on the BIA website. There's a lot of comprehensive information there. I think you can find everything you need. And there's our country group in grey, compared to the Koreans, and the European is definitely the largest block. There's a quick flash there of the UK Pavilion online directory. I think we have to go ahead one more slide now. Yeah, that's the one. Just to highlight the benefit of adding a logo, you can see that Micropore, Cedar, Touchlight are all jumping at you, whereas the others are a little obscure. So make sure that your entry in the partnering is sorted out, and contact the UK Pavilion organizer through John Lowndes to make sure that your profile's up there on the pavilion as well. And he's going to talk about the UK group. We've got Wales at booth 2085, got 11 companies from Wales, 11 organisations, got 15 organisations at the UK pavilion, booth 2348. And just a shout out to Fusion Antibodies, which is one of our members. I think they're the only ones in the pavilion this year. And the next, the one slide back, please. There's the link to all of the receptions and things that BIO are aware of. Too many to mention. Steve highlighted the best, obviously. And,
well, I provided a UK perspective, and it's always interesting, John Michael, to see that actually it's important that we do come together to understand that, you know, although there's a UK pavilion, Wales have decided also to have a pavilion, and then we've got a number of other people who've got things around the trade floor, which you'll see if you walk around. There is different support for different companies from different parts of the UK, whether that be Scotland, Midlands, Wales, and others. But you may get to bump into UK star guests, and Lynn's link here is also very important for a broader set of events that may be suitable for your type of business or people you want to meet, or particular countries that you're trying to engage with. But we're trying to focus it on the UK stuff, so you at least know what home base has got.
Yeah, and this session is being recorded. We've also got a link on our websites, the bio23biopartner.co.uk page, and that lists all of the companies that are attending and all of the events that we think are important, some of most of which Steve has already mentioned. There's safety in numbers, of course. There's better exposure as part of the country group. You get moral support and referrals from your colleagues, and you know, that's it really. Final slide. Turn your solo experience into a supportive network. You will make so many new contacts within the UK group, and because you're part of it.
Yep, the networking definitely starts in the departure lounge, but right goes all the way through to when you get there. And John, as a experienced hand on how the pavilion works and how to get the best from it, maybe I can ask you to take you through how the UK at BIO is going to look in 2023. Yeah, we'll need you off mute to get the best of your input. There you go.
Hi, Clara. Thank you, Steve. Yeah, I think I'm heading out to BIO for the 7th time, and I'll be around on the stand throughout the week. I'm the senior manager in the life sciences team in DBT. There we go. And I'm out there with a couple of colleagues. So Hilary Glidden, who's the head of life sciences, and Lois Garden will be with me, along with 2 colleagues from our Scottish team, Steve Kerr and Eleanor. And we've got 4 colleagues from the US, including Michael, who will be talking after me, all based in Boston. Plus, I've got 2 colleagues coming over from the Latin America and Brazil team. And we also have a couple of international trade advisors from the Midlands and the south of England. And we also have our Northern Powerhouse investment specialists coming out. So a fairly sizable team from the Department of Business and Trade. Next slide, please. Thank you. And Sciences Minister George Freeman will be attending BIO for the first couple of days. He's got a pretty busy programme, but you'll certainly get a chance to meet him at the UK reception on the Monday evening. Other important dignitaries from the UK include Office for Life Sciences and the NIHR, so they'll be around the show as well. Slide 4, please. So that's a mock-up of our stand. We're stand 2348, which is fairly central. We're located next door to the huge Canadian pavilion, so we should be pretty easy to find. And we're really handily placed for the main partnering area. As Steve was saying earlier, one of the advantages of being on our stand is that you have access to do on-stand partnering. Sometimes it can be difficult to drag people away from the partnering area, but because we're so close to it this year, hopefully that won't be an issue. Next slide, please. So we have the other devolved administrations involved with us. So we have Scottish Government representation on our stand, and Invest Northern Ireland will also be there. We were hoping the Welsh Government would be able to join us, but unfortunately there wasn't enough space because they've got 11 companies exhibiting. They decided they needed to have their own stand, which is just a stone's throw away. So literally a probably 20-second walk. So it's really good to have all the different parts of the UK fully engaged on bio this year. So we're really hoping to make a big splash. Next slide, please. So we have 15 exhibitors plus a number of showcase companies on the UK stand. So in total, we have 20 organisations present, quite a few well-known companies from the biopharma sector there, plus a few organisations, including the Harwell campus, Cancer Research Institute, and the Oxford Bio Network, plus a couple of the catapults. So pretty good representation from the UK on the stand. Next slide, please. So that's the programme for the week. So two big events I'd like to highlight are the UK country reception early on the Monday evening. Everybody is welcome to attend that, although you will need to register beforehand. Most country receptions take place on the Tuesday, but the UK is hopefully stealing the show with a Monday evening event. So do please let us know if you haven't received an invite yet, but you wish to attend. We will also have an on-stand reception on the Tuesday afternoon, which everybody is welcome to, and there's no need to pre-register for that. Then there's a couple of other sessions taking place, including a breakfast session on the Monday morning, which currently is fully booked. And there is also a global talent reception, which also is full. But if you're desperate to find out more about those, or you're really keen to attend, we can probably put you on the waiting list if you could contact me afterwards. There's also receptions being held by the Scottish delegation on Tuesday evening and Northern Ireland. So do please let me know if you're interested in attending those. Thank you. Next slide.
So the Welsh
please.
aren't having a party, John. Only ones who aren't having a party.
No, I think the Welsh are basically spending all their money on the stand. So they will certainly be around at our receptions, and you can certainly go and visit them on the stand as well. So yes, do please let us know if you're around at the show. We'll be on the stand all week. If you're interested in finding out more for future years about how on-stand partnering work and what the benefits and possible disadvantages are, do please have a chat with us and the companies who are participating on that during the week. But it is a very cost-effective way of getting access to companies and also involving more than one person from the company in the partnering. So do please consider that if you're thinking of using that in the future. I think next year we're back in San Diego, but I know we'll definitely have a presence there. Next slide, please. That's great, covered. Thanks, and then I think Michael's on next. So yeah, look forward to seeing you in Boston, and do please come and see us on the stand. Thank you.
Thanks, John. So from the on-stand experience to the in-city experience, Michael joins us, the Senior Trade and Investment Officer at the British Consulate General in Boston. Michael, over to you.
Thanks, Steve. I appreciate that. Thanks, John, for the introduction as well. We can go to the next slide. Basically, we here at the British Consulate in Boston, the Department of Business and Trade and Life Sciences, are here to support not only the British goal in ensuring good diplomatic relationships with the companies, but also to assist you as a way to find resources, companies, trade opportunities, and the like. We support a two-way bidirectional trade between the US and the UK. And we also have local resources here within the US in the UK to assist you in your business endeavors. Next slide, please. So what's so attractive to the life science companies in the Boston area? Well, it really started in 1976 when Cambridge, Massachusetts actually enacted the most restrictive biosafety ordinance in the country in response to a Harvard application for P3 laboratory for viral and recombinant DNA research. And despite Cambridge's attempt to kind of put biotechnology in a box, it actually allowed a lot of these companies to realize what they needed to do to become successful and actually engage in this type of research with the resources at Harvard and MIT. And as a result, has attracted thousands of companies, small and large, to the greater Cambridge, greater Boston area. And I think what says it most is the CEO and founder of Bioformus, when he was asked, why did he move his company from Singapore to Boston? And he says, the East Coast is some of the most largest and most prominent health systems in the country. Having access to these health systems, along with the right clinical and regulatory talent and data scientists that have good clinical experience, all of these combine to make it a compelling place to have a digital health or biotech community company. So it's really a very successful positive feedback loop in terms of what's attracted companies and business and trade to the greater Boston area. Next slide. This is basically bioscience or life sciences ecosystem by the numbers. Next slide. The numbers didn't match, but basically this shows the government support that we have for the growth of biotech here in the greater Boston area. Massachusetts has the largest per capita funding by the National Institutes of Health. And despite just representing 2% of the nationwide population, over 9% of all NIH funding went to Massachusetts. And you can see on the right-hand side, the number of awards that have been attracted by Massachusetts companies and academic institutions here. So as you can see, both from a government, academic, and a business perspective, really is almost one of the world's life sciences hubs to do a lot of business. And it only makes it more appropriate to have bio here this year as well. Next slide. So I'm the local talent, so my job is to help you get to know how to get around Boston. And despite what you may hear and see from the news reports, Boston is generally a safe city, especially in Seaport. Next slide. So how to get around, I would say Uber and Lyft apps are the way to go. What you would pay in parking if you decided to rent a car, if you wanted to see some sightseeing before or after the meeting, you'll pay more in parking than you will in any Uber or Lyft apps for a day or more. If you are budget limited, one of the ways to get around town is the subway or the MBTA. It is unlike the tube where you actually can use the Oyster card to tap in and tap out. Despite the fact that there's a lot of biotech and high tech here in the Boston area, it does not apply to the subways. You can't tap in and tap out. You use what we call a Charlie card, which you can buy at a kiosk right outside the turnstiles at the subway. And you tap in, and then you could ride and ride and ride, and then you just walk out. There's no reason to tap in, tap out. So I think if you want to keep your card safe, tap in, put it in your pocket. You don't need it again until you get back on the subway to go someplace else. An interchange between the different lines, between the red line, the green line, the blue line, and the like. Once you're in the system, you're in the system, and you don't need to tap again. One thing you need to know too is this is always top of my list when I go visit a new city. Jaywalking or not walking through an intersection or by looking at the pedestrian signals, it doesn't really matter. Jaywalking is not enforced here in Boston. Just be careful. The cars really don't pay a lot of attention to the lights either. So if you need to get someplace, you can cross the street. Nobody's going to write you a ticket. You might get hit by a car, so you have to be very careful because in Boston, it's really survival of the fittest as it relates to transportation. Next slide. And I mentioned earlier, traffic lights are not always obeyed. So even though it says walk, I would definitely take a look up and down the street to make sure someone's not trying to cut the light quick. It's very common here to do this. The convention center is actually, there's two convention centers in the city of Boston. The one we're at is at 415 Summer Street. It's called the Boston Convention and Exhibition Center. If you are an old timer like me and you say, take me to the convention center, you're automatically thinking of the Heinz Convention Center, which is the Prudential Center in downtown Boston on Boylston Street. So if you get into a cab and you need to tell someone where you're going to go, say, I want to go to the convention center on Summer Street. Otherwise, if you're dealing with a cabbie that's been doing this for a long time, they'll wind up taking you to the Heinz, and you can't walk from the Heinz to Boston. I mean, to the Boston Convention Center in a short period of time at all. They're completely two different areas. Now, when you're looking for something to eat or walk around or do something great, I highly recommend the North End. It's great Italian food. It's a nice casual walk toward the seacoast, and I'll show you in a map in a little bit where you can find that in relationship to the convention center. There's no reason to go there if you need to get something to eat, because the seaport area has a lot of great, reasonably priced and some expensive restaurants all around there within a short walking distance. And if you have someone that's accompanying you to the particular meeting here and they're looking for something unusual but fun to do, I definitely recommend the Boston Harbor Islands visit. You can get a ferry out to some of the islands that are in the harbor. Great views of the city of Boston if the weather's great. And it's a really enjoyable walk and a really enjoyable event. There's nothing really on the islands to do as it relates to commercial enterprises or amusement parks or things like that, but it's a nice natural experience in terms of looking at the islands and seeing the outdoors and seeing some of the ships in the harbor. And you can see the link there where you can access more information on that. As I mentioned earlier, Boston is generally a safe place, despite what you may hear about in the news from various parts of the country. One thing I would recommend you not do is go to the downtown crossing area early in the evening. So at the end of the convention center, I would avoid the downtown crossing area. In the past couple months, there have been some incidents down there that have not been tourist friendly, as we should say. But I would definitely, there are plenty of other places in Boston you can go to for shopping and eating and tourist activities. The UK reception is Monday evening at the Nutter Law Firm from 5 to 7 p.m. at 155 Seaport Boulevard. And I think we've mentioned a little bit about that. And everyone's welcome to this. But as John mentioned earlier, I highly recommend you register for that so we can have a good idea of the numbers of people that will be attending. Hopefully that you don't need this, but you should know this. In the US, 911 is the emergency number for all needs, police, fire, and ambulance. They'll actually have a GPS fix on your phone. So if you're not sure where you are, leave your phone on as best you can if you need it, because they will find you from GPS localization on your phone. And make sure that your location app is on as well, so that you can be seen if you need 911. And Goodwin, who's offering several different opportunities for UK companies here, has been a very generous partner with the consulate. And they're offering significant life science learnings and insights on Tuesday, which I'll talk about on the next slide. And they actually have a very great session on the considerations for trade in Asia and the US. And here's an overview of what they're offering, and below is the link to this particular program. They're looking at cross-border and licensing and partnership opportunities. They're also looking at Inflation Reduction Act compliance and market considerations here in the US, which is significant, that just got passed last year. FDA considerations if you're looking to do business in the US, and licensing considerations as well. It's a great opportunity to get some free legal advice, meet some people, and have an opportunity to understand what business both in Asia and the US is like if you're considering one or the other. Next slide. So to give you an orientation of where we're at in Boston, you can see on the right-hand side with the blue logo, the Boston International Airport, and literally right across the harbor is the Convention Center and the Exhibition Center. The city of Boston, where it says Boston, is really where the most congested portion of the city really is. So if you decide you want to go to Cambridge for somebody at MIT or Harvard, or in that general area at all, visiting some of the companies that are over there, it's going to take you a while. It looks very short on this particular map, but the traffic is amazing in terms of just gridlock. So be careful when you go, and if you need to go, that's why I recommended the Lyft or the Uber apps. One price, doesn't matter how long you're in traffic, you know what you have, and they should have no problem getting to where you need to go. Next slide. Next slide. This is a tighter version of what you're looking at. And the Boston Convention Center is the bottom portion in the center of the slide. And you can see in this particular area, there are other locations where some of the restaurants, Ocean Prime, great seafood, Legal Seafoods here in Boston, as many of you have come here, is a chain, but it's a phenomenally reasonably priced, great seafood. There are other fun locations such as the Putt Shack, Row 34, and Spin in Boston are places that if you're looking just to kind of relax and enjoy yourself, these are some of the best places to go as it relates to fun and excitement on your off time, and it's local to the convention center. One thing, if you do decide to use the MBTA or the subway, what you'll need to know is if your back is to the convention center and you're right on Summer Street and you take a left, you notice in the upper left-hand corner, it says South Station Train Terminal. And below that, there's a big T with the South Station in blue. It shows a bus and a subway. That's where the subway is located, the closest subway to the convention center. And that's on the red line. And as I mentioned earlier, once you tap into the system using a Charlie card, you can ride it everywhere and anywhere without having to tap again. If you leave the system, then you need to go back and re-tap all over again. So it's very similar to the Oyster card, except once you're in, you're in. Next slide. And this is what the Charlie card looks like. It's not plastic, it's paper. So if we were here during a rainy season, or you get wet or something like that, it could damage the card. So make sure you put that in a safe place. And all the electronics are within the cardboard of the card. So that's something I recommend if you want to save some money and get around town, that's the way to do it. And the next slide is, I hope you enjoy your visit. And I'll be here along with my colleagues that John showed on the previous presentation, Adriana, Matt, and Owen. We're all here to assist you in any way, shape, or form. And we welcome you to Boston, and I hope you enjoy your visit. And it's very successful for you as your business endeavors.
Michael, thank you for that insight. And it's amazing for me. I first visited Boston many, many years ago when I worked on the Northern Ireland peace process, and the development that you see downtown, or certainly to the south of town now. I mean, many, many years ago, you wouldn't have been advising people to go to the south of Boston, but now the new convention centre is there. I think it's interesting for biotech community because we're so used to going to Cambridge and the north side, but I think that link on the subway on the red line between going up to Cambridge is quite a quick way of doing it, and I certainly will be using your suggestion to take a Charlie and go up and down that way. I think actually some of the events for Bio, some of the evening events are quite distributed across town. They're not all absolutely right next to the convention centre, so I think people will be getting around and about, and I think hotels are probably distributed across town as well. So it'll be interesting to see. It's not a sort of place where I think only people will be in the convention centre. Get ready with your questions and answers. If questions are for us, or comments if you've got any. Couple of slides to close. What will I be talking about? If I've got to make small talk about the UK as I'm there, I always think there's some good points that you can make. I always think that Michael told you about some of the advantages of the Massachusetts area. I think the UK is the most significant life science cluster outside the US. We're a full service offering. And the benefit that we've got is we're small enough to be networked and flexible, but large enough to provide globally relevant outcomes and solutions. And I think that that's been proven in the work that we delivered during COVID. I think the world still is amazed that Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine saved 6 million lives. We're able to do the first registrations of new vaccines and produce amazing genomic surveillance of new pathogens and in a way that emerged. And that shows what we can do from the UK. I always talk about tech, bio, and genomics being two things that the UK has particular strength in. The way I talk about it is if you look at where magical journeys start, and as a Harry Potter fan, that is, of course, platform 9 3/4 at King's Cross Station. In life sciences at the moment, it's the marriage of the ability to understand what's going on inside a cell. If you think about the Crick Institute, one side of King's Cross Station, lots and lots of Europe's finest scientific brains working on that in an amazing new institute. The other side of King's Cross Station is Google DeepMind. Of course, Google don't put their AI headquarters in California, they put it in London. And that's because Demis and the gang have worked out not only how to play Go better than any human player, they've also cracked 85% of how proteins fold, which is absolutely vital for understanding antibodies and development of drugs. So if you put people who understand what's going on inside the cell with the people who can model it on the biggest and best computers in the world, bring them together at platform 9 3/4, that's why we've got the competitive advantage in the UK, as well as Harry Potter. Our cell and gene therapy community is second to none. Advanced therapies, we can do them, we can make them. It was companies in the UK, Oxford Biomedica, who convinced the FDA of the production processes. that provided the first regulated products in cell therapy in recent years. And we're going through a period of time where cash isn't as flush as it was the last couple of years. We've not had the boom that you've seen in Boston, but what UK companies are used to is working in non-cash rich environments. We're used to working on fumes. We are a resilient bunch and we can get stuff done, great science at a great price. The new conversation I'll be adding this year is when Silicon Valley Bank went down, one of the things we also did, not just in the COVID crisis, but in the Silicon Valley Bank crisis, we got together and we had that solved in a weekend. Silicon Valley Bank UK, the subsidiary, which many UK biotechs bank with, is now part of HSBC, a significant global player who want to do more in life sciences, who want to support and nurture our community. Again, it shows the ability of us to be small enough to be networked and flexible. Better solution, I think, than we saw in the States, better solution than we saw in Switzerland, but gives us a nimble and agile banking support structure for the UK. Some other conversation starters that I talk about, and this is my last slide. We'll see some announcements from the government at the Life Science Council at the end of the week. So mark your card, there might be more around next week. And if you want some timely stuff as to what's moving in the UK environment, look at newscasts next week from the BIA or look at the papers. We'll see some things, I think, this week. Chats that I have. We haven't got Boris and we haven't got Liz anymore. We've got a degree of political stability. We've had the same government for nearly a year. And what's interesting is that all the main political parties in Parliament, including the nationalists, understand and see the importance of the life science sector for the UK's future economy. So I think that's useful. And if you compare that with Europe, where there's some very unhelpful legislation being discussed by the European Commission, pushing that on a few countries in Europe, we won't be part of getting rid of intellectual property as the European Union are proposing. By standing still, we will have a competitive advantage as Europe looks to reduce intellectual property protections on life science businesses. Our regulator has new freedoms to be agile, and they've got a new focus. They've got some more money from the government and can move forward with confidence. We've got some new ideas about how you can do clinical trials, and we've got a regulator and a health technology assessment agency that are interested in doing that. I think that that's an important area where we may see emergence of new technologies, how AI is used, how you can speed up the process. There's some really interesting thinking going on there. And that's in part because we've got a rich and well understood data ecosystem in the NHS. Michael, you talked about healthcare systems in the US. Of course, in the UK, we have one healthcare system from the cradle to the grave, which also means you have the ability to harness the power of that to provide longitudinal data, which is more difficult for a diverse market-based system to do. And I think we've got some experience of using those. So I always talk about that as one of the UK's advantages. Our footprint in the UK is changing. People are probably aware that some of the tallest buildings in London are the Canary Wharf Towers. A new one is going up that will be solely dedicated to life sciences. A shopping centre in Cambridge is being repurposed as new labs. There's significant developments on the outskirts of Oxford to the north and down the road a place called Harwell. Moderna have put their research and development capability into the UK. The landscape in the UK life science sector is changing. The space that you can do this and the new people that we've got to do it is also changing. So come and have a look. If you're a Brit, you've not been back for a while, things have moved on a fair amount. King's Cross doesn't look like it used to. When I used to go to dodgy nightclubs there, it is now all very trendy shops and some amazing life science space, as well as connectivity to amazing capability in places like Stevenage, Manchester, Darlington and other places. So I think we can look at the landscape a bit different. And if you're having a finance conversation, we're aware that NASDAQ is pretty dormant at the moment, I would say asleep. London is waking up. There's some really interesting stuff about how we get productive finance from the UK base to support pioneering industries. It's a bit techie and it's a bit inside baseball. Michael, you were kind enough to put Fenway Park on your map, Fenway Park being the home of the Boston Red Sox, the baseball team. I think, are the Celtics still in the playoffs? I don't know. I don't follow basketball.
They have one more game left before they're blown out by the Heat.
Oh
So
dear.
That's it.
So
Yeah.
it won't be a celebration week in 2 weeks' time for the Celtics.
Probably not.
So we'll have to just talk about baseball then. The Red Sox and Fenway Park, if you get to go, one of the most historic stadiums in the US for baseball. But the point being, inside baseball, here inside the finance discussion, there is lots going on. I think about how we can get some of the finance centre in the UK to support life sciences, and there's quite a lot moving on this, with pension funds thinking very differently, find benefit pensions moving. I think whilst the French are rioting about the rise in pension ages, the UK is thinking very carefully about where we invest our money to ensure we get not only get a return but get economic growth. And of course, back to the story, we had a speedy solution to the Silicon Valley Bank crisis, and we've got HSBC. I would say we've got Harry Kane, but I'm not a Spurs fan, so we've got HSBC. So they're just a couple of points that might be useful. If you've got questions or comments, do put them in the Q&A. I think the chat may be disabled, but do put them in the Q&A. And it's great Tony from One Nucleus was able to join us. He's put in the chat and the Q&A that if you do want to go to one of those breakfasts, email him, and he's kind enough to put his email address in those in that Q&A. So I think you'll be welcome to one of those events. We've stunned you into silence. We've got a question. Are we using social media hashtags, and could you provide them? That is a massive oversight by me not to have that in front of me. And I'm sure we are, and I don't know what they are. So massive oversight. I don't know whether Jane, if she's hanging on, may be able to answer that one.
Share them in the post.
We will share it in the post. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know is the honest answer. That shows how poor my Instagram feed is, doesn't it? Sorry about that. We will share it in the post one. Any other points? John, Michael, Lynn?
Just one quick point from myself. Do please let me know if you have a particular interest in meeting a Vietnamese delegation.
Any particular reason, John? Are you
Sorry, we have the Vietnamese, I believe the Vietnamese health minister is visiting and is wanting to come by our stand at some point. So do please let me know if you're interested in Vietnam, and I will provide more details as soon as I have them. We're also hoping to have a Brazil seminar or webinar. So if Brazil is a particular interest to you, let me know and I will forward details through to you. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Vietnam and Lynn.
There was a question in the Q&A about the networking events. Obviously, not everything is listed on the BIO website. Not everything is listed on the slides here, but we are attempting to put everything we can into that little web page that we're running. And I've typed in the URL there. So just keep your eye on that over the next few days, and hopefully you'll find most of what's of interest, including the One Nucleus breakfast. It sounds, as you say, that Tony's not going to get much sleep while he's in Boston, and his team.
Well, he'll probably just roll through from the late night on Monday night to the Tuesday morning, I would imagine. And stay on California time. It's a great event. It will be very successful for UK companies. We are here to help support, promote. The networking often starts in the departure lounge and continues all the way through. So do please highlight your fellow Brits. Talk up the UK whenever you get the opportunity. The Americans don't ever miss an opportunity to talk up themselves. So we should put our Stetsons on and be very proud of what we've done in the UK and what we're going to do in the UK. I certainly am. Have fun, and we will. It's great to have the support of the government, and I know George Freeman will be a great champion for us, and is probably one of the most capable ministers on the world stage when it comes to biotech, because he does actually know a fair deal about it. So unless there's any more, I will encourage you to consider, if you've enjoyed this or you've got some time when you come back from BIO, some of the things that we've got coming up. Our summer party on the 13th of July at the Langham Hotel in central London is going to be fabulous. And we're already planning into the autumn with a great event coming up in Stevenage. And flagship autumn conference is on the 18th of October, Tech Bio UK. in the King's Cross region, and bioprocess, 20th year of bioprocess. So if you're into bioprocessing, last week in November, a fabulous event, and already selling very fast for that one. We're finding lots of people want to get out and about in 2023, and I really would advise you not to leave it late if you're interested in these things, because we are selling well. I see there's that. I think with that, I'm going to give you 10 minutes back at the top of the hour. I'm just going to thank John, thank Lynn, and thank Michael for your points in participation. Look forward to seeing Michael and John there, and to Sam Care for holding us all together and making this a technical success. Thank you.
Please
all.
don't forget
Have a
there's
great
a train
time.
strike on the 3rd of June. So if you're going to struggle to get to the airport, please get your taxi booked beforehand, because there won't be any trains. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Train strikes. I'm sure John will have sorted that out before we get to them. All right. Thanks, everyone. Cheers. Bye.